Hello again, friends, and well met. Now, in Sequent 5, there is a point to be made concerning the first 4 sequents. All material from these chapters concerning how the exiles came to be captured was actually taken from the screenplay of Mythos 4, The Crown of Scythius, and fully told there in flashback. Starting here in Sequent 5, the narrative will now really, truly, actually be from Mythos 3. I waited to reveal this here as I'm aware all this talk of mythoses and sequence can seem quite confusing at first, but for those following such matters, it feels necessary to clarify at this point. I also believe that for these mythcasting sessions, it would be more tolerable to instead tell the full story from beginning to end in a true linear fashion with no flashbacks. In addition, I want to add some pertinent information as to the full impact of the night the 6 Regents' sons were apprehended. This night, Grandus Isthmus, New Year's Day, came to be known in the Codex Exiled annals as the Bloodslaught, the enemy's years-long prepared offensive against not just Imbarcital, but nearly all of Thracia and its realms and provinces. 50,000 Grolts and Gulaks slew tens of thousands in the span of a single moonless night, with the 3 Onia somehow blotted out. The years of intricate plotting by Obsithius also made possible her tactics for deploying Grolts covertly up into a floating castle. Her objective against the Regents was indeed twofold: to steal the main etherical key from Imbarcital's hidden chamber, and only secondly, but still critically, the capture of the 6 childlings. And yes, to answer a few listeners' concerns, Eliscar did indeed release his chipmunk before he was captured, where that little fella came to make his way to Galantine and the other regents, revealing to them the last location of their missing sons. With that, let's continue onward with Sequent 5, now officially transcribed from Mythos 3, The Exiled. Through an old-growth wood, there is a thick stretch of twisted trees with a sinister gloom. Somewhere in the midst of this hard-to-find place is a churning, 12-foot-high cliff face of water and basin. Through the misty basin gleams rainbow colors, but in unusual order. Far-off voices, sadly singing, are heard. Moving yet closer to the growing sounds of rushing water, the voice of Tybane speaks. Home, he recalls. That's what these old, forgotten New York State woodlands mean to those who live among it, but not to the 6 survivors trapped here. Home for us is what lies on the other side, straight through these prison walls of cascading water. This is the plain, well-hidden Voracle Gateway, leading in or out from the supreme enchantment of Myriad to the mortal lands and ground we know as Earth. Moving now to another part of this same forest terrain, some miles away, known locally as Spell Hollow Wood. It is sunnier here with a lighter air. The black, now long hair of Tybane moves swiftly within the trees. He's joined by a head of silk platinum, Thyle, and another coal-black mane, Rage. They leap a stream flowing behind dense, overhanging oaks. Under those great trees is a black, shimmering pool some 50 feet across. It bubbles up as if sensing their approach. From the pool's far side, past a pile of eerie bones, speeds scruffy, dark-mopped Delias, golden, dreadlocked Eliscar, and the mixed copper and black head of Parian. As the 6 converge, all now looking around 18, though actually 15 and 16, the bubbling ripples across the pool. Something underneath it indeed knows they're here, and doesn't like it. Tybane smoothly casts a flat stone across the pool. It skips 10 times, until perfectly caught on the far side by Eliscar running in the counter direction. He sends the stone hopping back across the gooey pool. Like a timed football pass, it's nabbed by Parian, who simply swats and deflects it into a dozen more skips, into the red-tinged fingers of Delias. He twists and slingshots it back. The stone glides over the surface at Brage, easily catching it. His thick, muscled arm whiplashes it to skip 10 more times at last into Thial's tanned hands. This flurry of surface action sends the unseen Geit creature into a confused dither, sucking in black funnels all around them. On cue, the six split up. Thial dives into the nearby stream, moving torpedo-like underwater. Tybane scrambles up the low oak branches over the pool while Brage grabs and heaves a weighty stone. In midair, Eliscar's nimble fingers assist further lift of the rock to provide a heavy splash into the pool. Brage hurls yet another large rock, with motion assists by Parian and Eliscar, creating a new dynamic plunge, obscuring the Geit monster's ability to track any of them. Delias catches a hanging bucket tossed down from Tybane in the trees, as he bursts into great speed, leaping into the pool with a crazed shout. But inches from splashing into the black goo, Thial springs out from the stream, erupting in flesh now scaled and tinged blue, colliding into Delias over the pool. Momentum compels Delias up into the hands of Eliscar, who's held by branch-hanging Tybane. Delias is then swung in a great arc, inches over the pool's gooeyest center. He scoops and fills the bucket. To gaze closely at Delias as he swings reveals he has different colored eyes. With a grin, he also slurps up some of the goo. Thial, falling from his burst out from the stream, is caught by Parian, who's held above by a swinging down Brage from the higher branches. Though it's taken nearly a page to describe all this action, it occurs swiftly and perfectly synchronized in mere seconds. It's not quite humanly possible, but it is for these six. Delias lobs the filled bucket to Thial. He's then tossed a second empty bucket from Brage's other free hand. Delias is swung back over the pool again to fill this new bucket as well. But the Geit creature now sees him. It darts ahead. 4 feet of centipede-limbed tentacle reaches out from the pool. But too late. Delias and his second filled bucket are back in Thial's hands to be hauled up into the trees from Parian and Brage. Safe from the monster, yet once again. Within a maybe 15-minute walk from this pool is an old 3-storied country house built into the side of a hill between dual tumbling spouts of water and a creek. Inside this home, thick-bearded Rainer Mifflin, some 38 years of age, stands, facing a countertop, his eyes on the 2 black liquid-filled containers. Sitting before Mifflin, Tybane jots into a notebook. Eliscar has a rattlesnake curled around his shoulders, with a mouse harmlessly perched atop the snake's head, resting. Thial's blue skin is now tanned again. Yet close now, he still retains his coral brows and his 3 cheek gills. Parian flings a short wooden shaft to Eliscar, who nimbly catches it. It's tossed to Tybane, snagging it while writing. The foot-long hilt is pitched and flipped around the room. Delias catches it and flings it off, then flexes his arm on a table before Brage's thick bicep. They lock hands and arm wrestle. Delias loses easily, flexing both arms now, stubbornly ready to go once more. A teapot whistles. Mifflin pours its water into a mug. From a shelf, he takes out and empties into his tea the last drops of an identical container of the same black liquid. He stirs it, shakes his head, The boys laugh. Mifflin clears his throat and reminds them. Did they not agree he was going back to sugar? The 6 of them look among each other, shaking their heads. Nope, they don't recall that. Parian adds there's still plenty more where that came from. But Mifflin reminds them that where it came from is still a death trap. He compliments the boys, as he's done before, on their pluck, resourcefulness, and inventive use of gravity, but it's now time for a talk. Tybane tilts his head, repeating the word gravity. Yes, replies Professor Mifflin. The same earthly force the 6 of them seem to physically defy. Delias catches the hilt again while squeezing a fresh cut, grinning at his trickling blood. Blood that is blue, not red. He tells the professor that filling the buckets was the same old fun, and that the Geit monster is getting old and slow. Not so dangerous anymore, not even after moving its pool closer to them. Mifflin admits it's old perhaps, but still plenty dangerous. Still, he's obliged to thank them, asking if the 2 buckets contain their usual choice stuff from the pool's center, stuff that never fails to yield a fine cup of tea once he's filtrated out the poison. Mifflin takes a sip from his mug. He nods in fine approval. Eliscar asks what is it they need to discuss. Let's talk about that, Mifflin begins. The last Geit pool sighting was 2 miles off. If it's now shifted again nearer to them, then that's too close. For now, he orders, there'll be no crossing the bridge or the river. This elicits moans and groans from the 6 of them. Rage replies that the professor is reining them in again. Mifflin retorts that yes, he is, and that they know why. Parian is exasperated. He reminds Mifflin about the day after tomorrow. They have to cross the bridge. Mifflin sighs. He tells Parian he knows their hearts were set on their candle ceremony this year, but it's now just too dangerous. The professor then waves them all out of the room, asking them to follow. They move outside the grand house, the boys still expertly tossing the hilt between them. Mifflin leads them down a path, then turns into the woods. He kneels and asks if any of them had exchanged greetings with the moss and root folk lately. He swipes aside some ferns to reveal a gathering of tiny figures, no taller than an index finger, who scurry on in queues. They're dressed in earth tones of brown and gray with skin of muted green, brown eyes, no ears. The males are bald, but with mustacheless beards. The females' heads are covered with yellow sod or moss. Some turn to see they are being watched, but don't halt. Others don't care. Mifflin asks bluntly, so what's wrong here? Brage snickers. Tybane hasn't stepped on them yet? Rodents, Tybane mutters under his breath. But Eliscar looks up into the skyline treetops. He realizes that the little folk are moving away from the sun. Mifflin nods and confirms that it's near midday. When was the last time any of them saw that? Never. Something has redrawn the little people's daily migration. Thiel realizes something's changed in the wood. Mifflin adds that there are other signs as well, the rainbow's end having gone pale last month, and a most foul air from the west and north beyond the Spellhollow Pass. Then there was this past Thursday in town, where he thought he actually saw 2 masked gulaks. Gulaks, some of the boys repeat. Mifflin speaks plain. It's been years, but he believes they are once again not alone. The boys glance at one another. A barrage of speech erupts in a brisk, strange language. Nodding, head shaking. A hyper-accelerated debate. Mifflin shakes his head, puts his hands up. Hold on, he interrupts. Stop. Start again, please. Please. Within human perception. The 6 of them abruptly halt. Delias speaks, stating they are not afraid and how this year their candle observance should be lit at the site where it began, the Voracle. Parian adds that for a decade now, they did as the professor asked, to light their candles safely here at the house. Mifflin replies, yes, 10 years. Safely. He lowers his voice and adds that it's been 10 years that they've remained hidden. 10 years still alive. But do they forget what happens if it's found out the 6 of them still breathe? Eliscar's mouse scurries along the snake's back. He admits that there have been many a fox and stag and bird's eyes watching them in this wood these past years. The animals know them, and they've told Lisk more than once of other certain eyes also watching who would betray them. Thiel adds, there is lurking curiosity also below the Kindrain and Quinoa rivers, too. Yet maybe they could still go if they stayed well south of the shifting tracks and kept along the Gwindilo. Braid shakes his head. He reminds Thiel that any paths to the falls would bring them too close to his sanctuary and other things. Did not Delias swear what he saw only last month near the Byspan? The host forbid if true. Brage doesn't like it either, but grudgingly knows the professor's right. They should remain close by for now. Eliscar also agrees, until they know for sure. Abruptly, Parian interrupts. Yes, they did agree, to mark a decade past with new hope. Hope that they would, and now Tybane cuts off Parian, raising his voice, asking, for what? To light a damn useless candle? For hope? Or to be captured again? 10 years later to be chained to a rack once more? Starved, tortured, and angered, Ty reaches out to Parian as he rants, grabbing his shirt, yanking down his collar, to reveal an ugly mark seared into Parian's chest over the heart. He's been branded. Tybane shakes Parian. Do you want some more of this? Parian in frustration grabs Ty's shirt back. The same mark is partly seen on Ty's chest too. Mifflin raises his hands, telling them both to relax. They knew this was coming. They've been very careful all these years. He reminds them to keep their wits and wait and hope the past does not come full circle. And if it does, being chained to a rack once more, starved and tortured, will be only the beginning this time. It's been my pleasure to thank you once again for listening in to these continuing stories. I hope you've been able to see and imagine these events unfold as I recount them to you. Please do join me for the next chapter of the Exile's adventures in Sequent 6. Until then, goodwill to you, one and all.